We're going to reset the show here for those of you who stuck around with us. I'm sure we lost about half our audience there. But hey, for those of you sticking around, welcome back. Or now you can hear me and Adam and Max, and here we go again. I mean, I don't even know where to start.
That was like the first 8 minutes of the show. Just don't worry about any of that.
Okay, so anyways, let's start back at the top. Detroit Sports Podcast, Adam Strozynski is here. I asked about how things are going over at the podcast, and you said?
Things are great. We have weekly shows, so check that out. We've got a little bit of everything for everybody. If you like football, you like baseball, you like basketball, you like hockey, we've got individual podcasts for just you. Basically, the whole site is tailored for you. We've got my show, which I think is incredible. You should check that out. Every single Thursday it comes out. We are the longest-running episodic Detroit podcast in all the land, so check that out. It's a good deal. You can follow us on Twitter at Detroit Podcast. Follow me on Twitter at Adam R Stroz. You can follow Justin at JRose WXYZ. That's how you can get a hold of us. Just tweet us and we'll read that live on the show.
That's right.
Also, if you're watching on the live stream, of course, there's a box below us. You can sit there and you just type your messages in there. Those will go right to Max. He's the voice of God. Can't see him, but you can hear him. And he'll sit there and tell us what's going on. Like we had no sound for the first 8 minutes of the show.
Yeah.
So, which is awesome.
Yeah, very, very, very good. Is that true, Max? Where you can comment underneath?
It is true.
How come I'm not seeing this?
What are you looking at?
Right there.
I'm looking at the...
Wasn't that it right there?
Are you watching the live stream?
I'm not watching it.
You need to watch the live stream, and it's right under the live stream.
I just thought we were lying to the people, and I didn't want to
on.
do it. I'm looking. Don't worry. Oh,
So
look,
here's
there's
Max.
Yeah, this is Max.
Hello.
Oh.
Yeah, right there. You put your name in, and you enter your question there. And don't make any mean comments, because I know that's where you're headed.
This show has slightly gone off the rails.
I just said, why does Max suck? I got a question from Justin.
No, you all too well.
Rolling in. I'm done with you
There
today.
it is. Why does Max suck?
Anyways, we were
Show's
talking about.
derailed.
I feel like we were in a little bit of a rut here over the past couple of weeks, simply because the NCAA tournament was the after Michigan State and Michigan were out of it, and we've been talking about this playoff push for both the Red Wings and the Pistons for about 3 weeks now, and it's funny because when you talk about a playoff push 3 weeks ago, you're like, oh yeah, they're teetering. You hope that they can get in. They're in the same spot. 3 weeks later, the Red Wings, they're in the same spot. I mean, they've just moved up out of wild card spot into the Atlantic third spot, but at the same time, two humongous games on Wednesday and Thursday. Home against the Flyers, you beat them, they fall back down to the wild card spot, and if you beat Boston on the road on Thursday, you lock up the Atlantic division. And no matter what happens on Saturday against the Rangers, you're pretty much in the playoffs. So Wednesday and Thursday of this week, pretty much, to me, is it fair to say, is the season for the Wings?
Yes, absolutely. The season is on the line both Wednesday and Thursday. They got kind of done in a little bit by the schedule. They're having to play so many back-to-backs down the road here, but they responded well. You've seen it when they sat there and they came out and they took on Toronto. They looked really good for pretty much all of that game. A little bit of a sluggish moments there. But other than that, this team, like you said, the cards are in their hand.
Yeah.
If they want it, it's there for the taking. And all they have to do is just show up against Philadelphia, beat them. On top of it, they're at home, which is great because they can't win in Philly to save their lives. Not since they won the Stanley Cup there. And then they've got to travel to Boston. And Boston, honestly, they don't look that good right now. Boston is struggling.
They're playing bad hockey right now. One of the things that I was chatting about with one of my friends about this whole Red Wings situation is the fact that, can they make any noise when it comes to the playoffs? Can they get hot at the right time? And he seems to think that there's no chance that this Red Wings team has any shot of moving on into the next round of the playoffs, beating any of the teams that are ahead of them. I don't look at it that way. And I wanted to just kind of discuss this with you guys and you out there, because what do you think? Do you think that if they just get in, it's like, okay, keep the streak going, and then just bow out in 5 games? Is that how most Red Wings fans are feeling about the playoff hopes? Or is this a shock the world mentality where all of these things that you kind of been hoping for finally come to fruition?
Let's look at it this way. If they can lock up the third place spot, I think they have a great shot because they would end up taking on Tampa Bay.
Without Steven Stamkos.
Exactly. They lose their big gun with Steven Stamkos. They lose their captain, their leader. I think you have a great shot. Most of that offense is funneled through Steven Stamkos. He creates a lot for a lot of other guys. He makes a lot of other guys better on that team just by being on the ice. Also, he draws the attention of your defense. Now you can sit there and you can focus your defense a little bit more evenly across all 4 lines that are coming out at you. I think it sets up well if they can lock up the third place spot. If they lock up the fourth place spot, I think we've got a little bit of an issue because I don't feel like this team has that underdog mentality. Like, everybody's counted us out. Let's just go out there and win it and prove that we can do this. This team doesn't strike me as having that type of mentality. At this point, you've got so many veterans on this team. They're, I think, just happy that they got into the playoffs and that pressure is no longer there because throughout most of the season, everybody's talked about, can we make it another year? Can we push to the playoffs and get in there another year? So if you sit there and you fall into that last wild card spot, I don't.
Aren't you playing Washington if you get into the last wild card
yes,
spot?
Exactly.
Here's why none of this conversation matters.
Okay.
Because the Red Wings aren't going to make the playoffs.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Why so negative, Nancy?
They're not going to make the playoffs.
Okay,
You know how much
explain.
that hurts me to say that? You
All
guys
right,
know
all
how much that
right. Come on. Get to the goods.
Why
aren't they going to make the playoffs?
Thing. Philly is going to lock down the wild card spot that they need, right?
Okay.
Which means they're going to end up having to get in the Atlantic Division.
Right. You have to beat Boston, who
They're
you are
not-
now
they're not
a
beat-
point ahead of.
So they're a point ahead of Boston. Has 1 extra game left, I believe.
No,
they have
three games
same
left.
Hold on, I have the schedule up here. Boston plays tomorrow against the Carolina Hurricanes.
Right.
Win.
What if they don't?
It's a win.
What if they don't?
Okay, here's the thing.
They haven't looked good. They haven't looked good in 2 weeks.
They
though.
haven't, but they're going to win. Trust
Okay.
me. This,
Okay.
this is
He's
the
got a
time-
bookie inside deal.
I'm just saying. I'm giving you my opinion. You
Okay.
understand?
God, don't cry.
They're gonna beat the Hurricanes tomorrow, and they jump back up into 3rd place. Then the Wings play Philly on Wednesday, right?
At home.
At home. Okay, it's iffy. Even if they win, they're up point up on Boston. The Wings aren't going to beat Boston on the second game of a back-to-back at Boston, especially with how hard they're going to have to play against Philly. You're either going to go with a Jimmy Howard who's played the second straight game for the second straight time, or you're going with Peter Mrazek who hasn't played well.
So you're saying tired legs is factoring in here?
No, I
With Jimmy
just
Howard?
think and it's not tired legs. It's just, you're going to get worn down. You play back-to-back games. Philly's a fast team. They score a lot of goals. They're going to
And they're physical.
They're going to go into TD Garden in Boston with another physical team, and I think Detroit loses that game. So suddenly Boston is up a game again on the Wings. Then Detroit has to go into New York and play the Rangers.
But they've matched up well every time they played the Rangers.
But Boston plays the Ottawa Senators.
They do.
That's a win. Boston can easily win, and I think Boston will win their last 3 games.
I don't. Okay, and that's your opinion on that. I don't see it quite working out in that pessimistic sense.
I would love to be wrong here. I would love to be wrong.
I guess here's the point.
You do realize that they have lost 7 out of their last 9 games.
Yeah, no,
basically
they
since
played-
March 15.
They played terrible.
Since March 15.
They should have lost to St. Louis.
For half a month now, they basically have just crapped all over the bed and rolled around.
No, I know, but they're playing bad teams. They're lucking out and playing bad teams.
You mean the last 3 are against bad teams?
Yeah.
Detroit included.
Okay, you know what I mean.
I'm simply saying.
No,
What about a team like New Jersey? They lost to New Jersey.
This
2-1.
squashes all of
New Jersey's horrible.
Max, you very well might be 100% correct on this.
No,
the thing is like I like that the fact that you could make plays for Boston, Philly, and the Islanders even on getting into that other wild card spot.
That's
because
true.
you could make all sorts of claims. The Red Wings have, if they don't get in the playoffs, it's nobody's fault but their own. That's my point. That is why I'm saying that no matter the scenarios for other teams going out and winning, Boston could go out and win 2 of their last 3 games. As long as the Red Wings beat them, the Red Wings are going to stay in front of them. That's what my point is they don't have patty cakes that they have to win 3 games again. They're playing directly the 2 teams that are vying for the same spot that they're trying to get into. And if they beat both of them, the Rangers game is inconsequential.
No, I understand that, but I don't know if they can beat the Flyers on Wednesday. That's what I'm saying is that they're.
And then if they and I will agree with you too 100% to the point. If they If they lose on Wednesday or Thursday, then they don't deserve to be in the playoffs in the first
Exactly.
place. So that's where I'm at with it.
I'm saying it's. I don't think it's going to matter because I don't think the Red Wings are going to make the playoffs.
Let me put this to you. Let me put this. Okay, they have multiple outs here. They can win third in the Atlantic. They can also win the second wild card, and there is a possibility to win the first wild card. You have to realize that the Islanders, who also haven't been playing very well as of late, the Islanders have one goaltender at this point. You want to talk about possibly being tired and not having the wherewithal to sit there and make it to the end of the season. Their goaltending situation is very dicey in the Long Island state. All right. On top of that, they've got to play at Tampa, at Washington, at the Rangers. They've got Buffalo, who's a cupcake, and then they've got to play at Philadelphia, who is vying for a wild card spot. So the Islanders could be on the outside looking in by the time this is all said and done come April 10th.
They could, but I mean, and so could Philly. I mean, if we're going to go through every scenario, so could Philly because Philly plays the Wings and they play the Maple Leafs. That's probably a win.
Cupcake.
But then they're playing, they lost to the Penguins. They got killed yesterday.
Right.
And they play the Penguins again on Saturday.
Can we talk about Penguins real quick? And not going to make fun of you at all. I promise. They look like they're the real deal.
I really do like that.
They lost.
Yeah.
They lost their goaltender, who has a concussion right now. He's out indefinitely. They lost probably the best player on their team in Yevgeny Malkin, and these guys are still racking up W's. Insane. That team might win the whole darn thing.
I really like what I'm trying to make sure I spell your name correctly.
Yeah.
Stroy.
Look at that. That's a good-looking picture of me.
That's a good-looking picture of me.
We've got a lot of questions
It's a nice
coming in.
headshot.
Okay,
Let's go.
I
Go
want
with
the
the
questions.
I just want to address the people. I hope I'm wrong. I know a lot of people
Are you
mad
getting
at me
fried
here.
right now?
A lot of people are mad at me.
Yeah, you're getting fried.
I'm not being a troll, I promise. I'm saying what I think is going to happen.
I love the term
A
troll.
lot of
I
questions.
work with one.
What did you guys think about the Kadri hit on Saturday? He got
4-game
suspended
suspension
4
that
games
just came
today.
down,
Well
yeah.
deserved. That's a dirty hit. And it's a blow to the head.
You know what? Here's the thing. I'm gonna get killed for this. I like Kadri.
He's a good player.
I would love to see him in a winged wheel. I talked to my goalie on my hockey team about this, and he sat there and made fun of me. He's like he basically says he plays like me because he's dirty, and I'm not really a dirty player. I'm just I have a short fuse. So, anyways, I like Kadri. He's a little bit salty there, a little rough around the edges, and the guy can score.
He's quick.
He's quick.
He's
yes.
quick.
I like Kadri. I would love to see him in a winged wheel.
Is Red Wing goaltending going to be an issue? And then Rita wants to know Howard and Mrazek. Howard.
It's Howard all day.
It's Howard the rest of the way.
Well, and Howard has the experience. It's Howard the rest of the way unless he gets blown up these last. And if he loses 2 straight games, I think you go back to Mrazek.
I think even if they lose 2 straight games, it's still Howard. Peter Mrazek has instilled nothing every time he started a game. Do you realize he's basically giving up 14 goals, I believe it is, 14 or 16 goals over the course of 5 games? And he basically was yanked in almost every single one of those. It's atrocious the way he's played lately.
Yeah.
Vito. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Vito wants to know will the Wings. We want the Wings to continue the streak, but he's not confident they will advance. Are you guys still into hockey in Detroit?
I mean, this is the point that I've tried to make for a couple of weeks now. I think I've really redefined how I've explained it. We knew this was a transitionary year under Jeff Blashill. If this is rock bottom for the Red Wings, fighting for a playoff spot into the last week of the season, you're not completely bottoming out. If this is as bad as it's supposed to be, you're doing okay.
And what has changed over the course of the last 3 or 4 years? It's been like this for quite some time now, where they go right up into that last week where they're sitting there fighting it out for a playoff spot. So nothing else has really changed. Like you said, if they bottom out, and this is the ground floor for this Detroit Red Wings club right now. This is your transition. You're doing A-okay. You're doing all right. The thing is, you don't want to miss the playoffs because what do you benefit by missing the playoffs? You don't get anything with the draft lottery.
Nope.
You have, I think, it's like a 3% chance to possibly get a top 3 pick. To get a top 5 pick, I think it's like a 6% chance. It doesn't help you at all.
Right.
You're basically moving from 15 to 14, and that's about it.
And we've seen teams like the LA Kings, who aren't necessarily a dominant team by any stretch of the imagination, win it all from the 8th spot. Hot goalie. Howard can be that guy. I really believe it.
He could be. More stuff coming in. Tina said Angry Max needs to get on camera, but he's wrong. Red Wing Roger said I'm a jinx. Teresa said I'm sad because Sasha lost last night. That's very true. I am angry because of that. My mom said she feels like she's listening to Valeni and Foster.
That's good. We'll take
Yes,
that.
that's a nice
Yeah.
comparison.
Yeah.
Graham said, glad Max
Thanks,
turned on the
Mom.
audio. Now Justin and Adam should turn his off.
Oh! Ow, you just made that one up, right?
No. Everett said, no way, Max. Howard is getting hot and timely scoring is taking place. Should anyone be fired if they don't make the playoffs? And Justin said, Max, you suck.
Well, he does.
You got you were ahead of the game with that.
Nobody should be fired if the Red Wings miss the playoffs. Again, it was a transitionary year. Everybody on down the front office, all the way down, knew that this was going to be maybe a rougher year. But I really like how close this race is. I mean, top to bottom. I mean, besides Washington and Pittsburgh, who have eclipsed 100 points, not counting the Western Conference.
Wow, they've Pittsburgh 100 points.
They got 100 points.
That's crazy.
116 for Washington, 100 for Pittsburgh, and then you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams with 90 or more points. I mean, that's 3 games, just separating 7 teams. I mean, and you have 2 people. So you're down to 9 teams vying for those 8 spots. 10 really, because you got Boston and Ottawa. I mean, everyone's eliminated now, but you did up until a couple weeks ago. But I just like that the East is so much more like, I mean, everything in the West is locked up besides Minnesota, Colorado. But it looks like Minnesota's going to win that unless they completely tank out. I mean, they have a 5-point lead with 3 games to go. So basically, win 1 and go to overtime, and you're in.
Bill said, are the Wings too old? I would think the Wings are too young.
I think the Wings are too young, too.
Yeah.
I think that, Bill, I think you're thinking more of like the Datsyuks and the Zetterbergs and the Kronwalls. Yes, those are aging players with hefty contracts that are not producing at levels that you would probably like to see them be producing at. And I do think that I'm gonna go on a limb here and say this, but I don't think the Red Wings have any star power left.
No, at all.
Did you know?
They're not a free agent
So
destination.
Not until that new arena opens.
that new arena is going to open. So Datsyuk has 1 year left on his contract. There's word he might go to Russia.
Yeah.
Because of the new CBA, that's still a $7.5 million cap hit next year.
Yeah.
Did you realize Zetterberg still has 5 years left on his contract? I didn't know
insane.
that until this weekend.
It's absolutely nuts. The contract that Ken Hollins has signed the last couple years, honestly, I don't know. what
Loyal
he's
to a
doing.
fault.
But
Yeah.
who was the one who asked that question, that last question about them being too old?
Bill.
All right, Bill, I think what you're thinking of is they're on opposite ends of the spectrum. You have parts of this team that is aged and they're very old. Your Zetterbergs, your Datsyuks, your Kronwalls, those guys who look slow out there. But at the other end, you've got really young guys who are like 20, 21, 22. So it's kind of this weird mix where you've got basically polar opposites on this team. In the middle is your starting goaltender now, Jimmy Howard. He's somewhere in the middle there. And then you've got his backup, who is in his second full year as a starting goaltender. So it's a real weird mix. Usually there's this kind of melding of older and younger, and it kind of evens out somewhere in the middle. On this team, it's polar opposites. You've got guys like Brad Richards who basically maybe have 1, maybe 2 years left in the league, and then you've got guys like Anthony Ciu, who's been a marvel since he's been brought up.
Right.
So it's a weird combination that they have.
Sam wants to know, should the Wings let Datsyuk just go to Russia and push him out the door? He's aging fast.
He's still your best player on this team.
No, and with the $7.5 million cap hit, I don't think you can push him out the door.
No, I don't think you push him out the door.
He's your leader in points, and he's probably the most creative and best two-way player you have on this team right now.
Yeah, I think you keep him for another year, and then if he wants to go and
I think he's
retire
gone.
in Russia, that's fine. But I
and
think
this
you
has
keep
been
him for
talked
one
about.
more year.
This has been talked about.
It was
the
talked
last
about
3
before
seasons.
he signed his 3.
Yeah.
He signed a 3-year deal 2 years ago, and it was talked about that he would go to Russia after his contract ended 2 years before they extended it. But then he signed the 3-year contract, and then I think it was widely known, and I don't know if anyone in the organization would say this, but I think it was widely known that he was going to Russia once his contract ended.
And that's and that's okay, because what that'll do is that'll say, okay, we're opening a new arena. Who wants to come and be the center of the future here? Who is over the next?
Well, we may have the center of the future, but who else wants to come join this team?
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, like, who wants to come and replace Datsyuk in a brand new building from the free agent market? I think that you can go out and make a really good pitch to somebody who will be like, oh.
There was an article I seen when all these rumors and all this speculation came out that by letting Datsyuk go and ride off into the sunset, this really opens you up to go get a guy like a Steven Stamkos. Which, could you imagine pairing him with a guy like a Dylan Larkin, maybe an Anthony Ciu on the other wing there. I mean, that's a lot of speed and a lot of talent up front for your first line if you think about it. So it probably wouldn't be the worst thing, but if what you said is true, where it's going to still count $7.5 million against the cap, you want to keep him. You don't. That's like setting money on fire. Would you set $7.5 million on fire? You wouldn't.
Well, it's the fact that you're also going to lose a player and you don't have enough money to replace him because his cap hit's still there.
Exactly.
This is I don't know if you guys saw this over the weekend. No Canadian team will make the NHL playoffs for the first time in 46 years.
We did see that, absolutely.
And a quick congratulations to Tom Izzo, inducted in the Hall of Fame this year. Will be inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame this year.
Do you want to transition to that now? Because I know you wanted to talk about a little bit about that.
I mean, it's not going to. My question is, does anyone out there think that he's not deserving of a Hall of Fame nod while he's still coaching?
Put it out to the people. I'll
put it out to the people, just because I think that there's some people who would make an argument that he doesn't deserve it, and I just want to laugh, really, frankly.
Is that because he hasn't won his second championship?
Oh,
is that why?
Right.
Is that why?
Sure, because he's been to 7 Final Fours in 20 years. He's won a national title. He's 535-6 career wins over time.
Honestly, he's been one of the best coaches in this entire area for a decade plus. I mean, the only other coach who I think maybe holds a torch to him was Scotty Bowman when Scotty Bowman was here. And that's because that guy brought suitcases upon suitcases of wins and trophies with him.
Right.
So you had a great opportunity to see two of the best coaches of all time.
Michigan fans can equate Tom Izzo's success to Lloyd Carr's success, as far as I'm concerned.
That's a good way to put it.
When I think of Michigan football, I think of Lloyd Carr. I don't think of Rich Rod. Not yet. I don't think of Jim Harbaugh because he's only been here for a year. It's not fair to compare that yet. But Tom Izzo, over his 20 years, has done. I mean, you expect them to be a contender every year, and for the most part, they have been.
Yeah.
When Lloyd Carr was at the helm, you expected Michigan to win 10 games a year and be somewhat of a contender. Now they won one title, shared a title with Lloyd Carr being there, but every year you knew what Michigan football was, and that's why I equate them very similar to this region alone, to Michigan only, because when you think of Michigan State basketball, whether you like Michigan State basketball or not, you equate that with success. When you think of Lloyd Carr under the University of Michigan, when they were together, that was success, right?
Yeah, I think you're selling Izzo a little bit short, though, and this is coming from a Michigan fan. I like Lloyd Carr. I always felt like Lloyd Carr always left something on the table. I don't ever feel like he would have really talented teams and he would never be able to obtain the success that they should have attained.
Okay.
I always felt like there was always 1 or 2 games on the schedule that always tripped up his teams. Yes, they won that national championship in 1997. Thank you, Charles Woodson. I love you. I love Chuck, dude. I love Chuck. Anyways, they did win that. But other than that, if you go back and you look at throughout the history of when Lloyd Carr was there, I always feel like there was 1 or 2 wins where they just kind of, they just didn't do what they were supposed to do.
Okay, Middle Tennessee State this year.
Right.
You can make it's apples and oranges trying to compare 12-game schedule to a 30-game schedule, and the tournament is the tournament and the beast that it is. Michigan State has had way more success when they've been underdogs than when they've had, when they were supposed to be top dogs. But if you want to say Lloyd Carr did less when he needed to do more, you could still make that argument when 2012 when Michigan State had Adrian Payne, Keith Appling, and Gary Harris.
It's true.
They should have gone to a Final Four that year, didn't get it done. This year, this team should have. I still think they should be playing tonight. Is that insane or what? I still think they're the best team.
They were the best team
in the country,
in the entire
and they're
field.
not playing in the championship game tonight. And to me, I'll always look at this year as a disappointment for Michigan State. I will always, and that's not necessarily. Again, I still think they ran into a buzzsaw for one day. And look at what happened on Saturday.
Yeah.
Look at what happened to Oklahoma.
Yep.
They shot 71%. Villanova did.
Ran out of the gym.
When you shoot 71, that's what happened. Middle Tennessee shot like 66%. Michigan State shot like 61% and still lost.
I think it was 71%. I think it might have been the second highest Final Four shooting
percentage. The second highest shooting percentage behind Villanova in 1985.
Yes.
Under Wally Massimino. I actually met him one time.
Rob says Tom Izzo needs that second national title.
Agreed.
He's gone 16 years. Great coach, not a Hall of Famer. I think we all know how Michigan Matt feels. Tom Izzo is a grumpy old man. Reminds me of Bob Knight without the chair toss. Time to fire him.
Oh, come on. That is a troll job.
That is all
Greg
day.
said Tom
Who
Izzo,
said that? Who said that?
Michigan Matt.
Michigan Matt. Come on, dude. Seriously?
Greg
You're
said
fired.
Tom Izzo can't close like Adam in his hockey league. And I don't know. I'm just seeing this on Twitter.
It's true.
But the Michigan State disrespect continues.
Oh, boy. What happened
Because
now?
ESPN sent a push alert talking about how the great coach Tim Izzo was inducted into the Hall of
jeez.
Fame. A week after.
Do they have interns
A week
working
after
the
they
Twitter
have
feed?
They have to.
A week after the AP sent a push alert saying Denzel Washington was
Yes.
named the AP
Yeah.
Player of the
I
Year.
did see that.
Their own
Disrespect.
company. It just continues. I can't wait to
Disrespect.
tell.
Disrespect.
Our executive producer Glenn Barr is downstairs and does not know what is coming
Oh,
because
boy.
I'm going to ask him about Tim Izzo when the show's over.
Tim Izzo. My gosh. No, look. He's a Hall of Fame coach in I think regionally, he's definitely a Hall of Fame coach. I think that the Michigan Matt might be part of maybe more of a national thought process, but I still think that no matter where you go, if you bring up Michigan State basketball, people know who Tom Izzo is, right? I mean, do you guys think that his name is
I
big
would
enough
assume.
nationally? I would say that his name is big enough nationally that people understand come March.
Maybe
Izzo
not,
is
because the push from ESPN obviously doesn't know his name, so maybe not.
I don't think he would be known nationally. I think Midwest.
This is a really good debate.
I think Midwest, East Coast, maybe in the South a little bit where basketball is good, and maybe on the far West Coast.
All right, let's do this.
But I think in a majority of the country.
I mean, name your top 5 college coaches. That you know off the top of your head.
So here, I'm not going to go.
His name.
I'm not going to go top 5 college coaches. I'm going to go top 5 most well-known coaches.
Yeah.
John Calipari, Roy Williams, Rick Pitino. For me, Tom Izzo is in there, but that's because I'm from Michigan. And then
Coach K.
And Coach K, yeah. But there's
Jim Boeheim?
I think the 4 coaches I listed besides Tom Izzo are more well known across the country than Tom Izzo.
I think you're absolutely right.
Because they're bigger brands.
Right.
Yes.
North Carolina is a bigger brand. Duke basketball is a bigger brand.
Like you said, Jim Boeheim. So there's your 5, not counting Izzo. There's your 5, right?
Right.
So who's your 6 then? I think it has to be Izzo.
I put Izzo in there. Patino. Did you say Patino?
Yeah, he was in there. Yeah.
Um,
Coach K, Calipari. Calipari's probably number 1.
I think Boeheim and Izzo are like 5, 6.
Exactly.
5,
But see,
6.
I don't think most people would know who Boeheim is either.
But Syracuse basketball is a national.
Oh,
brand.
it is,
Yeah.
but I don't think people would know the coach. But that's just it kind of goes back to football too. Mark D'Antonio. I don't think people across the country know who Mark D'Antonio is.
No.
And
But there's a lot there's so many factors that go into becoming a household name, like Jim Harbaugh is.
Right.
Michigan football is a household name, regardless of who the head coach is.
Yes.
I mean, look at how bad it was under Brady Hoke and Rich Rod. Dumpster fire. Still a household name. Michigan will always have that household name. So then when you get a guy that says, out there and, making headlines and doing the things that he does, Jim Harbaugh did that in the NFL. He was a household name. So you marry that, that is a PR gold mine.
Wouldn't you say at this point where Michigan State is relative to Michigan State's a household name now? I would firmly believe that because
In Michigan, yeah.
In this area, you can just look in this area alone. There has been more Michigan State gear bought and being worn now than I can ever remember.
Right.
in
But
this
that's,
area,
I'm talking about
we're
that's
national.
That's,
No,
that's
no.
not
Now,
national
now let's
brand.
expand it nationally. Michigan State, during the whole time that the playoff was going on, they were getting talked about. They were getting a push.
But I don't-
they've been one of the most relative teams in college football. What, the last 7, 8 years?
But I
10
think
years now?
I think an average sports fan or an average basketball fan is like, oh, Michigan State. Why do I care about Michigan State? Click, change the channel, because it's not a.
To me,
Here, it's a household name
see,
for
but
sure.
here, to me, Michigan State and Clemson were the two. How did they get there? Teams.
Yes.
For me.
Yep.
Clemson is of the Michigan State of the ACC.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like it's a team that Dabo Swinney's obviously got them going in the right direction, but I mean, you don't think of Clemson football as like this juggernaut, and where they won championships 50 years ago. So did Michigan State, but it's like those were the two teams because you got Oklahoma and you had Alabama, which are two of the perennial powers. Even though Oklahoma's been down
Well, and then
recently.
Clemson is also an SEC country too.
Right.
Where
Maybe
they're
my
going to get
perspective is a little bit
overshadowed
skewed
by.
because I
I
just
think
eat
Clemson
this stuff
still
like
gets
it's cereal.
overshadowed by South Carolina to a
Yeah,
bit,
absolutely.
yeah. And now that Steve Spurrier's gone, maybe a little bit less, but
Yeah.
still, I think.
But when you looked at Clemson being in the Final Four for football with Michigan State, those were the two obviously lesser-known brands that were in the Final Four. I mean, look, it's all good exposure. I mean, people are going to take notice of Michigan State. Recruits are obviously keen to what's going on in the Big Ten. If they want to play Big Ten football, you're going to look at Michigan, you're going to look at Michigan State, and you're going to look at Ohio State. The top three are certainly those three teams. It just sucks that they're same division.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wish that the Big Ten would change the format.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you guys?
Oh, absolutely.
We can get into this this summer when we're really looking for content.
The way it works
this
right
is-
now, it's a complete bloodbath in
the East.
Yeah,
And then you get the sacrificial lamb from the West.
Well, yeah, it's
Exactly.
because you're going to have your top three teams in the Big Ten are all in the same conference, and they're all battling for
You can
one
even make.
spot.
I mean, James Franklin's not a great X's and O's coach, but he's got some talent coming through the pipeline in Happy Valley. So you're going to make
Penn
an
State
argument.
is still Penn State.
Penn State is going to be the fourth team in the East Conference. That, I mean, holy smokes! You're going to be playing three of the best top 25 teams in the country in your division, and then you're going to have to emerge from that bloodbath to play a probably top 15 team from the other side, if they ever get their stuff together. I think that Lovie Smith hired Illinois is really interesting.
I think it is too.
Do you think
that
really
makes them
interesting?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Lovie Smith, former Bears coach, is now in Champaign. Going to try to revive that dumpster fire that's been for a long time.
When that came through and that decision was made, I was like, okay. So now does Illinois become more relevant, or do they still stay basically dirt on the bottom of your shoe?
That
it's going to
athletic
be
de-
really interesting.
That
what happens.
athletic department needs to make sure that it gets out of its own way. So many times Illinois' athletic department, the athletic director on down, has made the problems there so prevalent from that. So I think that that'll be. My internet's broken, Max. Come fix it. I'm just kidding. Don't worry about it. But no, I
He's just
really
a pretty face, folks. Just a pretty face.
That's all. I can't even make my computer work. But I really do think that there certainly is some credence with Izzo being in the Hall of Fame. He so deserves it. He does it the right way. He's a good coach. X's and O's. There's nobody better off of timeout. Nobody better drawing up a play from a timeout. And congrats to him and the Michigan State program for getting yet another nice little feather in the cap for that program as it continues to build. I'm excited about that draft or that recruiting class next year. Miles Bridges and Cassius Winston, Josh Langford, and then Nick Ward. He's like the forgotten one. He might be one of the hidden gems of that class, and he's still really good. So
It's going to be a good team next year.
it'll be a good team next year.
He always seems to reload, though, which is
This
something
is
his
going to
Michigan
be his
counterpart
best.
doesn't.
This is going to be his best recruiting class ever, and
Could you
it's
imagine?
exciting to see where this team can be next year.
Could you imagine what Izzo could do with some of the stock that Calipari gets, that Coach K gets, that even Louisville gets, with some of the talent that they bring in? Because it always seems like Michigan's one of the top four
But-
in these high school superstar runnings, but they're always left out.
You know why, though.
Yes, I do. Because they're AAU programs and
The
there's
greasing of
giant,
the wheels.
There's giant bags full of money floating around. I totally get it.
Greasing the wheels. Look, it
Yes.
happens. I gotta believe it happens everywhere. All of these big programs. The reason that these guys are going to these big programs is because some are willing to do things that are a little bit shadier than others.
It's that
And
$100 handshake.
To the credit of John Beilein, he wants nothing to do with it. So when he misses out on recruits, Michigan fans going,
I'm not talking about Beeline. I'm talking about, could you imagine what Izzo could do
Right.
with some of that talent?
If he was willing
'Cause
to do some of the
exactly,
things
'cause
that...
Izzo won't do that stuff. But he's such a great coach. Like you said, X's and O's wise, I don't know if there's anybody better. And if you look at what he does with the talent that he does get, it's amazing. I mean, Matt Costello, he was a
4-star.
Yeah, he was Mr. Michigan basketball, right? But his first 3 years, he didn't show you anything. He didn't show you anything until this year. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think that was more just him developing, going along with the process, and finally he emerged.
Right.
So it's just, I think it's what Izzo does. I think it's how Izzo wants to coach as well. I don't think he necessarily wants to be in on those big guys because he's
learned, though.
He's the 4-year guy.
He's learned that you have to be within those guys to win.
right.
That's where you're seeing the Kentucky, Duke, North Carolina talent gap, why they've won so many titles lately. That's why I'm so rooting for Villanova tonight. Go Nova. Go Wildcats. Beat North Carolina, because I don't want to see North Carolina win another title, because it's that same thing. It's the Blue Bloods. It's the tournament opens with 68 teams all with a chance to win it all. And you get down and it's going to be North Carolina winning, and it's like, oh man, like how unexciting is that? I want Villanova to win it. That's just me.
I want Villanova to win because if Villanova wins, then my boss, Seth, wins our bracket, and he said he's going to get us all a nice lunch.
Am I included in that?
I don't know. We discussed
Seth?
this among the web team. Seth is not here right now.
There it is. Tim Izzo.
Ooh.
Tim, I told you. Would you not believe me?
No, I
It
did.
hurts my feelings when you don't believe
No,
me.
I did believe you. I never not.
You know what? I'm done.
It's like the 5th time they've been done with each other
I don't have.
in the last 45 minutes.
I don't have.
Like an old married couple
Yeah.
or
no.
older brothers.
No, yeah, brothers. I'd go with brothers.
It just got a little weird.
Aw, Raquel Izzo tweeting about her dad. That's
Her
nice.
dad, Tim.
Yeah, her dad, Tim. I don't listen to you, though.
Someone wanted to know earlier. Did Tom Izzo name his kid after Mateen Cleaves?
Steven? Mateen, yeah.
Oh, they want to know if he thinks he regrets that because of all the Mateen Cleaves issues.
No, because that's not the Mateen Cleaves Tom Izzo fell in love with and helped him get
Named
to a
his kid
title
after.
and named his kid after. So
You know, my kindergarten teacher named her kid after me. She's a good student. Just gonna say it.
I don't believe you on that.
I think it's true. I don't know what happened to her, but
Let's talk a little bit about the Pistons. Throw another tweet out there into the world, as you already were, because we're on the same page.
because I'm on
mentally.
top of it.
Pistons are now back in the 8th spot. Over the weekend, they beat Chicago on Saturday. They jumped up to the 7th spot, but then who went out and won? Who moved into the 7th spot? The Pacers. The
Indiana.
Pacers won on Sunday.
Well, they're tied. They have the same record. But
Tiebreaker
yeah.
puts them into the 8th spot. But look, I like the way that this team has been playing as of late. I'm seeing a lot of really, good play out of Tobias Harris and Marcus Morris has been unbelievable. Reggie
been on
Jackson's
fire
been
lately.
good. He's shooting like 51% from the field. That's what you want going into the last 2 weeks of the season. I really look at this Pistons team as, they're going to make the playoffs, and I'm not sure I'm ready to say today they're going to upset somebody, but I think they at least go to 6 games with whoever they play.
They're going to be a tough out for anybody. Let's just can we just say the Tobias Harris move?
Oh, it's beautiful.
The steal of the century for the Pistons, a great move. That was very similar to bringing in your Rasheed Wallace.
Yeah.
He was the one piece that was missing to help make this team, in this case, a playoff contender, but I think 2-3 years down the road, an actual contender. So solid move by Stan Van Gundy there. But you're absolutely right. This team is going to be a tough out for anybody in the playoffs. I think they match up very well against Cleveland. The one thing that scares me a little bit about Cleveland right now is I'm reminded of 2007, I believe it was, when you had a much better Pistons team going up against a up-and-coming Cleveland team that had hardly any talent, but you had LeBron James.
Right.
And LeBron James ended up taking over that entire series, and I think it was Game 5 or Game 6 where he scored the last 25 of the 29 points that Cleveland ended up having and basically dismantled and shattered what the Pistons had going at that time. Because if you remember, after that was when they started trading away the pieces, broke up everything that the Pistons had, and I think that was the last time they were a real threat in the playoffs. So that's the one thing that scares me about matching up against Cleveland, because I feel like LeBron can turn it on whenever he wants to. Right now they look like a total dysfunctional mess, and LeBron has checked out this last week of the season. It appears anyway.
But why would they need to put any effort into the last week of the season? They're already locked
You're
into the.
you're
That's
absolutely right.
the one thing that
You're absolutely right.
Rod Beard from the Detroit News and I talked about a lot was, he's saying the Cavs have the playoff experience. They know the intensity it takes to win in the playoffs. They know that what they have to do they're on cruise control until they get there. And don't let this outside of the locker room stuff make it seem like they're a dysfunctional team as far as like when it comes down to playing basketball. They know what they need to do. I mean, obviously, I think that they match up better with Toronto, personally, because I think Toronto's another young team that can get. They're the Atlanta Hawks from last year.
Okay.
To me, Atlanta was the favorite #1 seed from the East. They went on that like amazing streak to start the season. They lost like 3 games. And then they came back to reality, and because I think that their youth and inexperience showed up. I think you can catch Toronto, kind of, it's just the Pistons, and I think you can beat them. And I think that you can move on to the next round, which is only going to, by no stretch of the imagination do I see the Pistons coming out of the East in any way, shape, or form. But even winning one playoff series, getting to the next round, semifinals of the Eastern Conference, like, I'll take that.
And with them being a young team, if they show up and they play hard on the defensive side of the ball, you can really frustrate a young team, force them to make turnovers, and turnovers lead to victory. So absolutely, they could match up well against Toronto. It's just I've seen more done against the Cavs than I have against Toronto lately. So at this point, either way, if they get either one, they're gonna make it hard on them.
Right.
I think we both agree on that. You're right. The way this team is starting to come together now and gel, they're just hitting their stride, which is great to see. You carry that over through basically the last week and a half of the season, and you take that into the playoffs, it's basically sky's the limit there. So I like where they're at.
I look at this. I just pulled up the Pistons, and Chad Ford is the NBA draft guru for ESPN. He thinks that the Pistons are going to draft Diamond Stone, the freshman out of
real name.
Yes, Diamond Stone out of Maryland. He was a big man for the Terps this year, and good player. I don't know if they need to go front court, though. I think they need more depth for the bench with another guard.
I agree.
Maybe a small forward, but I don't think they need to go big, especially with the way that they want to play, 4 out, 1 in.
If you look at what this team is doing in the way that they've been playing lately, I think you're set in your front court. I don't understand why. I mean, you've got Aaron Baines, who has been a great fill-in. Andre Drummond has had to sit on the bench either because he's in foul trouble or he can't hit free throws late in the game.
Hackadray, and it's working.
You've got Anthony Tolliver, who gives you what he gives you. He's a big man who can hit threes, which is what Stan Van Gundy likes. On top of that, I really like where Stanley Johnson's developing. I like where he's going right now. I like when Kevin Durant came out and said what he said. The first guy to pipe up was Stanley Johnson. I like to see that. I think that's great. I think the chemistry with this team is really good right now, and I think you're absolutely right. You need some help in the backcourt there.
Yeah.
You need some more depth there. A guy who can shoot the ball and bring it up when you need to. Somebody who's got a little bit of flexibility there, I think, would be outstanding for this team.
All right, looking at a couple of mock drafts here.
We got a lot of questions coming in, too.
Okay, yeah. Let me just say what they have the Pistons doing with this one. Skal Lebisere, freshman from Kentucky. 6'11" power forward. I don't like that one.
What do they need that for?
Denzel Valentine going to Portland.
If you get a 6'11" power forward, isn't that like having Andre Drummond and
where's Portland drafting relative to where they've got Detroit going right now? Because would you want to see Denzel Valentine here?
I think so.
He's a guy who basically
plays the 1, 2, and the 3.
Exactly.
He plays the 1, 2, and 3. He comes off the bench. You don't even have to have him start for you.
Can carry the ball.
And
he can need him.
He can do it all. He can shoot. He can pass. He can facilitate. He can run the offense. I think that whoever picks Denzel, mark my words, if whoever picks Denzel Valentine, they will have the next Draymond Green.
Yes.
In a different format. He won't maybe have as many rebounds. But this is still a guard that can rebound off the ball. I think Denzel Valentine, if you're sleeping on Denzel Valentine in the NBA, I think you're making a big mistake. Big mistake. All right, give me some of these questions.
All right, Trayvon wants to know if you would rather have the Pistons face Toronto or Cleveland.
I think we just kind of you want.
I think they match up better against Cleveland, but I can see them being a very difficult out for Toronto. And you want Toronto.
I want Toronto because I think that you use experience against inexperience against inexperience in the playoffs, at least to get through the next round. The Pistons are already kind of looking at all these games down the stretch as playoff type games because they're playing for their playoff lives. But getting in And maybe, look, you go up to Toronto, you split the first 2 games, you come home, you see if you can go up 3-1 in the series. I mean, that in itself would be enough experience for me if they lost in the next round, or if Toronto came back, I'd be okay with that.
Let me see here. Jordan wants to know if Reggie Jackson was on a line to celebrate like he did versus OKC.
No, I loved it. No.
And then I loved, was it Stanley Johnson's response?
Yes.
Even though he's a rookie, I loved that he's
Loved
like,
it.
we're circling that game. On the
Loved
calendar.
it.
And
Kevin
now-
Durant saying, who cares about Detroit?
Thought it was great.
And now it sucks that they only play them twice a year because they're in the
It
other
does.
conference.
I love that there's a rivalry there. I love it. And it's not one of those fictional made-up
Right.
ones. It's a legit right. Like, honestly, Reggie Jackson hates Oklahoma. Like, absolutely hates Oklahoma and everything to do with Oklahoma. And on top of that, Westbrook absolutely despises him.
Yeah.
And you can see it when they talk. They see through their teeth when they speak to each other. I love it. I think it's great. I'd love to see a bloodbath on the court.
Richard said Pistons are peaking at the right time, but I'm not sure Reggie is a mature player. What are you guys' thoughts?
He still has inconsistencies in his game, and you see that in long stretches during games, and I think that's kind of what hurts the team a little bit, but I think he'll be better for it in the long run. I'm not worried about where Reggie Jackson's going right now. I think his development he's right on track, and I think, like I said, 2 years from now, we're going to be, our mouths will be just agape because he's going to be a stud.
Oh.
Christian said KCP is playing better both at home and on the road. Can he even take his game to the next level?
I was just on the way in here today, and Chauncey Billups was on Detroit Sports 105.1 talking with Rico Beard and Ryan Armani, and he said that he thought that KCP can be that guy that becomes an all-star that nobody knows about, that he doesn't have this pedigree, but he thinks the world of KCP, and I'm starting to see it. I'm starting to see his ability to play lockdown defense, and in the NBA, you need one guy who's going to be your lockdown defender against somebody. And I think he's the guy. I want to see his three-point shooting be more consistent because he's got games where he'll go 7 for 10 and then he'll go 1 for 10. So I need him to be a little bit more consistent with that. But KCP can take it to another level. And again, guys, this is the youngest team in the NBA, maybe besides Philadelphia. Maybe besides Philadelphia. I mean, their average age is like 22 and a half. I mean, they're babies out there. So give this team 2-3 years. Give them a couple years of getting into the playoffs and taking their lumps. And we're talking in 2020, this team's contending for a world championship, the way it is right now.
Let me put it to you like this. KCP is what Ben Wallace was to that 2004 Pistons team. He's their defensive stopper. He's the guy who's down there making it a living hell on whoever that number one player is on that opposite team. On top of that, the guy can shoot the ball. You're right, he's inconsistent. He needs to work on that, needs to develop that a little bit more. But again, Stan Van Gundy's playing the long game here. He's not, he has no visions of grandeur this season. It'll be an accomplishment to make the playoffs, especially coming where they were come the All-Star break. And he just hopes to get some experience. After that, the long hand is 2 years from now, 3 years from now. Where are they then, and how much better is this team then? So KCP's, I think you're right. He's that one guy who, very underrated, but he is a major cog in all of this, especially on the defensive end of the ball.
Yeah.
His defensive prowess is very underrated.
Vincenzo has a good question. Is SVG a coach you think can take them to a title?
Absolutely.
Yes.
He's shown that he can at least get there with the Magic. Didn't win it, but can get there. Dwight Howard and company. I think he looks at Andre Drummond like a Dwight Howard type player. I mean, Andre Drummond is 24 years old. He's still really young. He can. Who knows what this guy can be in 3 years, in 2 years? Like if he gets a little bit more offensive efficiency and learn to shoot a damn free throw.
If you go back 2 years
He'd be good.
and you look at where the core, the young core was on this team, and look at where they're at now. Look at their development. That's all because of Stan Van Gundy's tutelage. He's really Andre Drummond's a double-double machine. If he could hit a free throw, you're right. He'd be a lot more dangerous.
Yeah.
But that's something he can work on, something he can develop. You look at Reggie Jackson. That was a sweet move to go out and pick him up from OKC because that wasn't working there. You now have your point guard of the future. He's made a couple trades where he's gotten a couple pieces in here. KCP has developed probably most of everybody because nobody liked him in this town. Everybody wanted Trey Burke. Everybody thought Jody boned that pick, if you remember. And now we're talking about KCP being that lockdown defender, that guy who's going to help catapult this team ahead in the playoffs because he does really good things on both ends of the court. So absolutely, Stan Van Gundy is a guy who can get this team to a championship and help them win one, just based upon his knowledge, his X's and O's skills, and the development of this young team.
I've got a question for you guys before we wrap it up.
Yeah.
Tigers season starts tomorrow. We haven't really talked about it, but prediction?
90 wins, so sticking with it. 90 wins. I think they're making the playoffs. I think that I like that they're under the radar. I'm sick and tired of being a favorite because name the last favorite that ever won it. Seriously.
Yeah.
In any sport. When is a favorite win it? I guarantee this, the Washington Capitals won't win a Stanley Cup this year.
Probably not.
No.
Why?
The President's
Because they
Cup.
won the President's Cup. They're the best
never
team,
wins,
so they'll
yeah.
lose. It's. I like that they're under the radar. Look, Justin Verlander has something to prove. Finally, something to prove. I mean, when you get to the top and you're the Mecca, and then you have 2 or 3 years of bleh, you have something to prove. He's a competitor. He's going to be back. I really like the lineup. I mean, top to bottom. I mean, you can't find a hole in this lineup offensively. If they can just find ways to get the bat on the ball, they're going to score a lot of runs. The pitching is going to be a question, but I really like that the bullpen reminds me of the Shark Tank from the Pittsburgh Pirates from 2013 when they made it to the playoffs, because that group is good. This group is the best bullpen we've seen here in a really, really long time. And so while the starting pitching may not be great, the bullpen is that much better where you're not going to be, Brad Osmus isn't going to be throwing somebody in here he knows isn't going to get it done. He's got guys that he can trust and throw out there. Any more questions we have to wrap up with before I have to tell my hockey story?
Oh, yeah. No, that's it.
Oh yeah. So something superbly awesome happened to me, and Max only wants to just be a jerk about it. Max?
It's a good story.
It's a good story, but
You just don't like that I got the glory?
Is
that what it was?
No, I just know that because you got the glory. I mean, I saw Snapchat and Instagram and Facebook and
Semifinals of the Onyx Rochester League. We go into double overtime. It's a 4-4 game against this team that was pretty good. I had so many chances that I just kept missing. I've scored a couple over the top of the net, put a couple right in the goalie's gut, and
Scoring out that chest protector, huh?
You're wearing it out because in the double overtime period, my co-line mate takes a shot and it bounces off his right pad. It goes down to make the pad, and I'm soaring into the net, and it just came out, and I fired it in the back of the net, and the celebration, I can't even tell you, for a 31-year-old to celebrate the way that I celebrated, it was like I had won the Stanley Cup. So sports is just incredible. Like that feeling you get, you can't. I mean, we're done with organized sports for the most part. Our lives were, you get to go through high school, and if you don't play in college, organized sports life becomes, less than, But that moment last night was.
glorious.
Was glorious. So, Maxwell and Adam, I'm inviting you both, and I'm inviting you.
Your top 3 moments of your life, yes?
Probably,
Okay.
sports-wise, yeah,
Cool.
top 3, that's up there. I'm inviting both of you and the watchers out there. Rochester Onyx, 7 o'clock, Sunday night. Come cheer on the Yeti squad in the
Live like
championship
3
game.
miles from the Onyx.
You're coming. You got to come.
I guess I got to be that. Maybe.
You got to come. Just
I
saying.
want you in a T-shirt with Justin's face on it.
My
Yeah.
mom, who may or may not be still watching, has a T-shirt maker, so I can make a
There you
Justin
go.
Rose T-shirt.
That'd
Yes.
be great. Let's do it. So that's the show for this week. Thanks so much. We'll be talking about hopefully, I'll bring the trophy in.
That'll
I'll
be
bring the
sweet.
trophy in next Monday for winning. We'll have to
drink
get John
beers out of it
We'll have to
on-
get
on
John
air.
Buchagras to retweet my team tweet. But thanks for all your questions, all your comments, your viewership, and sticking with us through the technical difficulties at the beginning of the show. We'll be here next Monday, hopefully talking about the Red Wings in the playoffs because they should be starting Tuesday or Wednesday.
Even though I don't think it's going to happen.
We'll
Well,
see.
you're negative Nancy.
We'll see. We'll
You
see.
sit there
Let's
on
make a
your
bet.
soapbox.
Let's make a bet.
All
A
right.
soda. We'll make a
Oh,
soda.
I was going to make something more fun than that.
Oh, what?
I don't know. I was going to make it.
It's called pop. It's not.
I don't know. I figured I would have to do something, or we'd video.
You'd have to get a tattoo of a minion on your leg.
He's
already got one.
That's a
Does he?
call out.
Yeah. All right.
I also, I heard you have a tattoo of.
A lion's
Yeah, fail.
Yeah. A lot of failing here over there by Maxwell. All right. We'll be talking next week, championship week, for myself and the Red Wings going to the playoffs, hopefully. Pistons as well. And, of course, something else will happen. Oh, wait. Opening day on
That's
Friday.
right.
All of that and much more next week on the podcast here on WXYZ.com. Enjoy your day.